What's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles welcoming you to another edition of Lyles Figure Files. So, G.I. Joe Classified Series clearly is one of my favorite lines. May is about at its midway point, but I don't really care because I'm like, yes, can we just fast forward this month and jump ahead to June because that means it's YoJo June time. Last year's YoJo June was amazing. We got so many cool reveals, so many great figures dropped, prototypes revealed, the great diorama shots, and of course, the coup de grace was the debut of the Cobra His Tank, Hasbro's very first G.I. Joe Classified Series HasLab. The Joe team is hard at work right now, dropping all these tidbits, these hints of the 2023 HasLab, and I'm so for it. I can't wait to hear what we're going to get, see the prototype, the hard sell, the whole works, because I cannot wait to see this new HasLab, especially since it seems like it's going to be G.I. Joe themed and not Cobra this time. But that reminded me, it had been a while since I'd done a Next Joe Up, my series where I was taking a look at the respective years of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, and taking a look at the figures that Hasbro has already brought to us and who's still left on the checklist. I know you all, if you're Real American Hero collectors, you got a figure. Then one of the first things you did was take a look at the back and like, oh man, there's all these characters still left to get. Because of course, back in the day, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have YouTube influencers, we didn't have any knowledge whatsoever what was coming. It was always, here is what's coming up for the Joes. And it was, oh man, this guy looks cool. I want this one too. And oh wow. And if your stores were like mine, they didn't always have every Joe from the new series up at the same time. So it was like, oh man, I got to track this guy down. I didn't even see him on the pegs. So that was the fun of that for me. And kind of is right now because I'm kind of wondering which character we're going to get from which year. And Hasbro's done an amazing job of taking out a few characters from this year and from 84 and 85, 82, 83, etc., going into 87, even into newer, more recent years for the Joe mythos. So that's been really fun seeing who they're going to come up with next. So just to recap, I've done the 82, the 83, the 84, and 85 series. Now it's time for 1986. But just to recap again, what we've got so far from the original wave, the 1982 series, we got Stalker, Breaker, Scarlet, who is probably due for a retro figure, Snake Eyes, who has a retro figure for his complete classic look, and Rock and Roll. And Rock and Roll probably is a candidate for another retro figure, but I really like what they've done with his updated version. So I wouldn't be too upset if he's further down the road on the retro path because I really like his figure. So I've gotten them, and we got Cobra Troopers on the Cobra side of things from the original 1982 wave. And that Cobra Commander with the Mickey Mouse logo, the Cobra logo is coming with his tank. So I guess we can knock him off that list as well. Then we have the 1983 series, and I really love this set because it was so many complementary Joes who weren't overlapping specialties from the original 13. And it was like, okay, cool, we need this thing too. We need this specialty as well. And they've done a really good job of covering this year of Joes as well. So we've got Gung Ho, that retro version. Really great figure. He's a Marine. Got Cover Girl. She probably needs a better head sculpt, but we got her covered. Torpedo is imminent. We're starting to see pictures, videos of these guys. Snow Job is coming. Really nice job with him as well. His figure looks outstanding. And then we've got Tripwire. Tripwire is next up on the name revealed list. They've told us he's coming. We haven't seen anything. I'm assuming we're going to see some prototype version of him come next month, but I'm excited to see how he turns out. And there are a couple figures still left from the 83 series. So like, okay, let's get to it. So anyway, this is why I'm looking forward to June because there's so many cool figures left and so many reveals of figures that have been announced. And on the Cobra front, Major Blood, Destro have been, of course, released. So we're looking forward to adding more Cobras to join them on the Cobra hierarchy. Then for 84, really great series. We've gotten a pretty good amount of those Joes as well. So we've gotten Duke, another candidate for a retro figure. Heavy Artillery Roadblock, tremendous figure, really well done. Spirit Iron Knife, another fantastic figure. We know Recondo is due for a repaint since he has a Tiger Force figure that's in stores right now. So eventually we'll see him with his new classic look. So we can pretty much count him as a figure that's already done. We know Mutt and Junkyard now is another name release set. They're the latest pet duo coming, and I'd be shocked, floored, and just disappointed if we didn't see them at some point during Yojo June. On the Cobra front, we've got a retro Storm Shadow, retro Zartan, retro Firefly. So all those guys are covered on the retro front. We do know that coming up are, well, I guess we have Baroness, so she's covered, and the Dreadnoks who always want to lump in the same wave as Zartan, but they're actually 85. So we've got them coming, another solid set. So there's not too many left in terms of the 1984 line. Then for my personal favorite, the 1985 wave, so many great characters. This is where we start to see a little overlap of specialties from the original three waves. So it's like, okay, we're starting to get some replacements coming in. So we got Flint, we've got Lady J, we've got Snake Eyes and Timber, we've got Shipwreck pretty much en route as well. We've got Dusty, we've got Barbecue. Quick Kick is a name character we haven't seen yet. Bazooka has a Tiger Force figure, and we've already seen what his repainted classic look is going to look like. So can't wait to get him. And of course, there are a few more that I'm waiting to see. On the Cobra front, we've got Buzzer and Ripper announced. We haven't seen anything with them as of yet, but we got to assume Torch is coming soon. But that wave in terms of Cobra vehicles or Cobra villains, getting a little bit closer. Got Tomax and Zaymont, of course, in figure form. So they're really great figures. But the 85 series is making some really good headway. Now let's move on to who's next and who's potentially coming with the 1986 line. This is one of the best designs years of G.I. Joe. Personally, I love these designs. I love the characters. Of course, they have the advantage of being spotlighted in the cartoons. So that's probably some of my soft spot for these characters, but I just love how they turned out. I think Hasbro really was on their game with these designs and these characters, and they've done some really good classified series based off what we got so far. So to recap, we got Roadblock from the very first wave of Joes. He probably could use that kind of sterner head sculpt like the heavy artillery Roadblock. I don't know why I keep stumbling over his name, but Roadblock. And then we got Beachhead, and they did a really good job with his head sculpt. I think maybe they could streamline his outfit a little bit more if they decided to go a retro version of Beachhead, maybe enhance that camouflage. No changes needed whatsoever with Sergeant Slaughter. I think he's one of the best figures in the entire line. They just nailed him, and I just love how he turned out. On the Cobra front, we got the Cobra Bats, and as you know from all these different repaints of them we're getting, Hasbro loves them too, but they're really great figures, so I can't complain. We've also got the Vipers. I love how they turned out. I just wish they had the rolled up sleeves so we could have them chilling like they did back in the vintage look, but really good figures. And of course, we got Dr. Mindbender, who is fantastic in every way with his designs, all the sculpted elements, not leaving anything up to the paint, and just the great head sculpt, the monocle. He looks fantastic. I haven't gotten around to opening my Serpentor just yet, but he looks fantastic, and they did a really good job with him. And then we've got Zorana as well. So they've done really strong work with these 1986 characters that they've done so far. So lots of good options in terms of who's next for the line. And we do know a couple. We know General Hawk is coming. General Hawk has a fantastic outfit here. This is my favorite look by far for Hawk. And with this helmet with the goggles, the bombardier jacket, the gun that puts into the holster on his side. Hopefully that will continue on with the new figure, the camouflage pants. But I really love this look for him. We also know Lowlight's coming. They've even gone so far as to show us a prototype, and it's basically a 6-inch version of the Pursuit of Cobra Lowlight figure, which was a highlight of that wave. Just well done all around. So I cannot wait to get this figure in my hand, because I think he could be one of those best in line like we've seen with Spirit. There's so many candidates now at this point, but he really turned out great. So now let's break down all the Joes who are still left from the 1986 series. So first up is Dial Tone. Dial Tone is going to continue with a thread, a trend here of Joes who are replacing other Joes who are already on the team. He's, of course, a communications expert. I love his design with that shield / communications device that he wears as a backpack. His submachine gun looks really cool. I always love this color scheme. And I just like Daltone's look. I think he turned out really nice. And I can't wait to see what the Classified Series team does with Daltone. Then next up, Iceberg. I love the dichotomy of him because he grew up in Texas, can't stand the heat. So he wanted to go off and be a winter Arctic soldier so he could enjoy the cold all the time. Love his design as well. And Iceberg is really cool because it continued the trend where every year in the first 5 years of G.I. Joe, they had a new black member join the team. I always love that. Next up is a pacifist, Lifeline. And Lifeline is cool. He's got the red cross color scheme with the red and white and really subtle detail there. And I love his outfit. His backpack is cool. His big medic pack is also great. Love the green glasses. I thought that was a cool touch as well. But he is a second medic, and we need Doc first. Then we get Leatherneck, and Leatherneck is an awesome Marine trying to replace Gung Ho, but you can't replace Gung Ho. And again, a really great design for him. They didn't have to do too much to make him look cool. He just looks like an ornery, you don't want to mess with me jarhead. So I love him. I can't wait to see him in figure form as well. Then we got Mainframe, and Mainframe is one of the few members of this set this year where he's not overlapping into someone else's specialty. He's a computer guy. Maybe he's overtaking Sparks, but we didn't get a Sparks figure, so I don't think he counts. But Mainframe would be really great. And you can pair him up with Zorana. Then we've got Sci-Fi, the Joe's second laser trooper. He's here to replace my boy Flash, but who can? But he's got a great design. And again, he had an awesome Pursuit of Cobra figure that I think is a standout in that wave. And so I'd love to see what they would do with him in the 6-inch scale. Then we got Wetsuit, and Wetsuit's another replacement. He's taken over Torpedo's spot, but really fantastic design. Unlike so many of these other figures, he did not have a good Pursuit of Cobra modern updated character. I wish he could have had a better one, but I'm looking forward to seeing an update for Wetsuit because he's a character that would do really well with a better version. So then we move on to Cobra. And Cobra has been really interesting because Hasbro has been knocking these guys out big time. They have just knocked out Serpentor, Zorana, Dr. Mindbender, the Cobra Grunt Troop. So there's not as many options on the Cobra front as there are with the Joes. And basically, it's all about the Dreadnoks. So first up, it's Monkey Wrench. Monkey Wrench has a great design. Those grenades on the front. I mean, this guy does not care if a shot comes his way because he's just crazy. I love his pitchfork style gun, his whole designs with the ripped up pants or jeans, the bandanas on either leg. He just has a cool design, and his cartoon portrayal was really fun too. He likes explosions, loud explosions. So he's really fun and really cool. Great addition to the Dreadnoks. Can't wait to see him. Then there's Thrasher. I kind of feel like Thrasher is somebody we're not going to see anytime soon because if this pattern continues where Hasbro goes with a Cobra HasLab, a Joe HasLab, then a Cobra HasLab, I feel like the Thrasher and the Thunder Machine are going to be the 2024 HasLab choice, and this is a great opportunity to slot him in for there. So maybe we're not going to see him anytime soon. The final solo standalone character is Xandar, the brother to Zorana and Zartan. Again, great design, and he's got so much cool stuff going on that I would love to see what Hasbro would do with him. So based on the options and the sense of, hey, I don't want so many Joes repeating specialties, the skills of other Joes, I think for right now, I want Mainframe, which is kind of weird because I thought going into this, I was going to go Wetsuit, Leatherneck, maybe Iceberg. But I feel like Mainframe does something that no other Joe that I have in my classified series collection does right now. And I don't want to start throwing in replacement characters or paired characters. So I don't need 2 seals right away when I still am waiting to get my Torpedo figure. I don't necessarily need another Marine while I've got Gung Ho looking really cool and all that good stuff. So for the sake of having a new Joe and new specialty, I want Mainframe. And with the Battle of the Dreadnoks, I figure it makes more sense to get the original 3, Torch, Buzzer, Ripper, all at once before we start adding Thrasher, before we add Monkey Wrench into the mix. So to complete the family unit, I think my next choice, my selection for this is Xandar. But now, of course, there's so many other options because you can't just talk about G.I. Joe without mentioning the vehicles. And we're starting to see more teases about that upcoming HasLab. This is the latest one that dropped courtesy of histank.com to put it up nice and big for all of us to see. It's from Agent Venus, who now we know is Zartan, and he's breaking down all the stuff. And let's get to the good stuff. This unexpected intrusion suggests G.I. Joe is not only aware of his fleet, but shall be employing whatever means necessary to counteract it. Now, that's an interesting clue, a little hint that maybe we're going to see a G.I. Joe HasLab. And here's a picture, and I'm not going to try to draw too much from this. This is from Zartan's cam, but we see Emily here chilling. And we also see General Hawk. And I've been saying that all this time that I think this HasLab, based on the clues we've gotten, is going to be the Snowcat. But seeing General Hawk out there kind of makes me think maybe this HasLab is themed more around of a 1986 vehicle. And if so, there's some really strong Joe candidates for that. But for the sake of fairness, let's break down the Cobra vehicles so we can do a Joe and Cobra vehicle for the 1986 wave. Keep it fair. So from 3D Joe's, the Thunder Machine, I've already covered this. This is a great vehicle, and there's not a lot of bells and whistles to it in terms of opening slot compartments. It's 2 seats for Thrasher, his co-pilot or coach, shotgun driver, and then everything else is on the outside. The Thunder Machine's a pretty straightforward vehicle. I don't think it has to be a HasLab, but I think just because of the scale, the scope of the His Tank, we're going to have to go that route. So I think we're going to have to settle for HasLab, but there are lots of tiers, lots of options on that front for the Thunder Machine. Next up is another vehicle that I think could possibly not necessarily be a HasLab. It's the Cobra Stun. Reminder, weapons do not shoot. This is another one where everything is above board. So you could just make a canopy for the driver and the 2 gunners, the one in the back as well. I feel like that's another instance where they don't have to make this HasLab. Maybe this is something they sneak on the retail. From those leak lists, we know more vehicles are coming. I don't know if we could possibly get away with a vehicle the size of the Stun, but I'd love to see it. Maybe this is an example of them taking advantage of the Pulse option where they don't have to go to retail. They don't need to fund it through a crowdfunder, but we can still get a new Joe vehicle or a Cobra vehicle in this case. That's not too massive. That's not too huge. And then continuing that theme with the Joe vehicle, it's Sergeant Slaughter's Triple T tank. I feel 100% that this is something that could be retail. If not retail, then 100% a Pulse exclusive vehicle. It's basically just for Sergeant Slaughter, and there's some foot pegs for other Joes, so it doesn't even need to be tank size. It's just pretty big, and I think that's something that, based off of vehicles we've seen come to retail, McFarlane Toys is doing it massive with big stuff, bigger than what the Triple T tank would be. I think that's an option that should work for the big time of retail or Pulse. Then the next step on that front are the candidates for the HasLab, and that's Havoc. The Havoc is massive. I think the HasLabs are kind of geared more towards bigger vehicles, and I think this would work. And I think this is a vehicle that could be worth a little bit more. So if we're, as we've seen with other HasLabs, they want to raise the price. This is something that I think would be worth more than what we paid for the His Tank, because there's so many different compartments, so many different sections. And then that top part, as you remember, does kind of raise up a little bit for the guns. So this part does move up. And then we've got a built-in driver with cross country. I think there's a lot of complexities to the Havoc, and I'm not quite sure if they want to take on a project of this scope so far with the HasLabs, but this is definitely a candidate. And next up is the Tomahawk. I think this is a little bit easier, kind of on the same trajectory of the Dragonfly, where it's not too much. It's just a really long silo, basically, that has open compartments. And I think the best way to go is make it wide enough that 2 Joes can sit in the middle, and then a Joe gunner can be there on the end, on either end, and then we have enough space for Lifeline in the back to go rappel down and go help out some of his fallen Joe team members. But as you can see, it doesn't have to be but so wide, and it doesn't have to be a massive size vehicle. But again, this would definitely be a HasLab choice. So if I'm hoping, speculating for a HasLab Joe vehicle based off of these 1986 choices, I'm going to say I'm hoping that we see the Havoc. I think that'd be a great vehicle, a really fun powerhouse thing to take on the His tank. But we'll see. I'm still pulling for the Snowcat, but of these 86 options, I think that would work. Then, of course, there's some smaller ones like the Devilfish, the Silver Mirage motorcycle. I think these are all options that could work just for basic retail. We know some smaller vehicles are coming. The Triple T tank for sure. I think the Stun would work as well, but that's what I want to see. So for my Cobra vehicle, of course, the Thunder Machine, and then for my Joe HasLab from this set, the Havoc, and hopefully we'll see Tomahawk coming along at some point with Lift Ticket. So that's my choices and options that for what I want to see with the 1986 series. Drop a comment. Let me know who your preference is, your priority figure, your one Joe, your one Cobra, and your one Joe and one Cobra vehicle. Let me know what you want to see coming up next. And hopefully, we'll get some news about some of these characters come Yojo June next month. As always, thank you so much for watching. This episode of Laos Figure Files has been filed.